The stories became more sinister. Some led us through the mountains to central Albania, to this house in a remote valley near Borel. We visited it to see for ourselves. There were rumors that people were killed here for their organs. A driver described delivering captives here. This is an extract from his statement.
When we brought the first group from Kosovo to Borel, I heard that they were checking them, that doctors were checking them and taking blood samples. And they were asking whether they'd been beaten or mistreated. This was confusing. Why worry about their health? I later heard something about prisoners or their kidneys going to the airport. I heard they were going to Turkey.
Michael shared these stories with the UN team searching for the missing. When they visited the house in February 2004, they found that one room had traces of blood over almost the entire floor. Near the house was a rubbish dump where they found
a number of surgical elements that were not necessarily expected from such a rural place, such as surgical coveralls, an IV drip, and some vials of a muscle relaxant that, according to my doctors at the time at the office, is commonly used in surgical proceedings.
The family say there's an innocent explanation.
Of course they found it. We've got an older father, an older grandfather, a little brother who doesn't feel well. It's very difficult for an ambulance to get here, or for us to get to the hospital in Borel. Sometimes the local medic comes to do drips, and we'll throw it here. This is our dump.
The family is adamant, but their explanations have been inconsistent. Suspicions remain, which the local deputy in the Albanian parliament says have harmed the family and damaged the region's honour.
We are open to any investigation that has to bring once again the truth in evidence. So we are sure that nothing has happened, and so when you are on the side of the right, you are not afraid about that.
The investigators' evidence was transferred to the War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague, but prosecutors concluded that their hands were tied, as these crimes allegedly took place after the war. The UN mission in Kosovo could have pursued the investigation, for example in a local graveyard, but chose not to. Human rights groups say the mission's record on war crimes is lamentable.
To see a UN body failing to abide by the international standards to which it holds its member states accountable is really quite shocking. And more than that, the impact on the families who want to know the fate of their family members. They want to know where their bodies are. They want to know what happened to them.
War crimes cases are stored today in the basement of the former UN headquarters. Very few ever led to prosecutions. There was a reluctance in the UN mission to risk upsetting Kosovo's rulers, many of them ex-KLA commanders, and stability seemed more important than justice. So the documents gathered dust. These files have never been filmed before. Without a shadow of doubt, they contain the answers to some of the most painful questions from the war and its aftermath, details of the victims and perpetrators. Less a can of worms, more a bucket full of them. The remains of hundreds of still unidentified people are stored here at Pristina Hospital. Nearly 2,000 people are still missing. Investigations of kidnapping, murder and even theft of organs may face another problem. The Serbian war crimes prosecutor says the tribunal has destroyed the medical evidence gathered from Borel. We asked the tribunal whether this is true. We received this written response.
As this is currently an ongoing investigation of the Serbian Office of the War Crimes Prosecutor, we are regrettably not in a position to respond to your specific questions.
Mr. Bareba believes that the evidence his team collected has been destroyed.
This is not the first time that evidence is destroyed in tribunal. I mean, I would say incompetence. I think there's still a lack of understanding, despite so many years, of the complexities of the type of evidence associated to this kind of uncommon crimes.
During the war, Hashim Thaçi was political director of the Kosovo Liberation Army. He's now the first Prime Minister of an independent Kosovo. I put it to him that his men were responsible for crimes against civilians during and after the war.
After the war, there was misuse of the uniform of the Kosovo Liberation Army. There were people coming from different parts and pretending that they belonged to the KLA, who did some bad things in the name of the KLA. But we have distanced ourselves from those people. The misuse was minimal.
Here in Kosovo, there's a great reluctance to look into the darker side of what they see as their war of liberation. There are other challenges now, they say, the challenges of independence. But basic questions remain unanswered. Do these peaceful hills conceal the bodies of the missing, of all nationalities? Or do they lie in unmarked graves beyond Kosovo's borders?